Welcome to the White Knight Theater. My colleague told me that Nicole Brown's body has already been cleaned. Are you suggesting there might have been an accomplice? After their divorce in 1993, Nicole called 911 twice. In 1985, Simpson was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. During his acceptance speech, he emphasized that Nicole Brown had played a positive and key role in his life. The audience erupted in applause, and Nicole's smile was bright and radiant from the audience. At that time, no one knew that 9 years later, a recording of Nicole calling the police about Simpson's domestic violence would be played nationwide. Produced by Himalaya, the 11th episode of the Chinese-American detective Dr. Lee Chong-Yu's crime drama, The Three Anomalies at the Crime Scene. After O.J. Simpson and Nicole Brown divorced in 1994, did Nicole call 911 twice? The two calls were less than a minute apart. Nicole's apartment, where she lived at the time, was only 6 blocks away from the later crime scene on Bundy Drive. In the 911 recording released by the media, O.J. Simpson was loud and aggressive, trying to break into Nicole's rented apartment. And all of this was because she happened to see a photo album of Nicole's ex-boyfriend. Hold on, we're dispatching police immediately. All units, be advised, there's likely a domestic violence incident happening at South Britannia Green Road. Please have nearby units respond as soon as possible. Incident number is 48231. What's going on? Is he threatening you? I'm letting him in to talk. If he enters the house, please don't spend money on painting. I need to hear what's happening. Did he hit you? Where is he now? Is he likely to hit you? I don't know if this has happened before. It will take some time. This reveals another side of O.J. Simpson. Beyond his energetic presence on the football field and his positive image on TV, he was violent, unpredictable, and jealous of Nicole's new life. In this recording, O.J. Simpson establishes a new profile. Simpson was capable of stalking and potentially escalating violent behavior, eventually leading to the murder of his ex-wife Nicole. Dr. Lee Chong-Yu and Sam were in the car, listening to this recording broadcast on the radio, preparing to head to the first crime scene on Bundy Drive. Goodness, Nicole was so pitiful. I can't imagine how O.J. would react after hearing this, and even more so, how Nicole's parents would feel after listening to this recording. The media reported that when the police called Nicole's parents to inform them of her death, it was Nicole's father who answered. After hearing the news, he collapsed. Nicole's sister screamed over the phone. It was O.J. He finally did it. The two sisters had a close relationship. Before Nicole married O.J., they even worked together at the same coffee shop. You tend to think Nicole might have known something extra. At that time, I thought it might be a coincidence, but now it seems that the story behind O.J. is even more complicated. Don't jump to conclusions. Yeah, you've matured a lot. As Sam felt, the 911 recording of Nicole's call had the most direct impact. According to media surveys, before the recording was released, 60% of Americans believed O.J. Simpson was innocent. But after the recording was made public, 60% of Americans turned to believe Simpson was guilty. So, is O.J. Simpson the murderer of Nicole and Goldman? What exactly happened on Bundy Drive on the night of June 12th? It all started with the howling of an Akita dog. Below is the situation of that night reproduced by Dr. Lee Chong-Yu and Sam based on the information organized by the defense team. On June 12, 1994, the time was close to midnight. Freelancer Shukru, as usual, was walking his dog, Akita Kwan, near Bundy Drive. Akita Kwan seemed restless and anxious, dragging Shukru all the way to Nicole's apartment at 875. Under the bright moonlight, Shukru's gaze crossed the narrow path in front of the door and saw a woman in a black dress lying in front of the apartment, covered in blood. At 0:09 on June 13th, patrol officers Robert Lisk and his partner, who were on patrol nearby, immediately rushed to the scene after receiving a report of a criminal case, and arrived 4 minutes later. The patrol officers quickly determined that both victims were no longer breathing. After that, they found 2 children still asleep in the upstairs bedroom. The 2 returned to the first floor to call for backup. Below is the situation of that night reproduced by Dr. Lee Chong-Yu and Sam based on the information organized by the defense team. On June 12, 1994, the time was close to midnight. Freelancer Shukru, as usual, was walking his dog, Akita Kwan, near Bundy Drive. Akita Kwan seemed restless and anxious, dragging Shukru all the way to Nicole's apartment at 875. Under the bright moonlight, Shukru's gaze crossed the narrow path in front of the door and saw a woman in a black dress lying in front of the apartment, covered in blood. At 0:09 on June 13th, patrol officers Robert Lisk and his partner, who were on patrol nearby, immediately rushed to the scene after receiving a report of a criminal case, and arrived 4 minutes later. The patrol officers quickly determined that both victims were no longer breathing. After that, they found 2 children still asleep in the upstairs bedroom. The 2 returned to the first floor to call for backup. Sydney and Justin took them to the West Los Angeles Police Department building. Next, the police cordoned off the scene, with some officers using flashlights to search the alley behind the house for potential clues, while others dispersed to the surroundings to gather information. Knocking on doors house by house in the middle of the night, what happened? Did you see any strangers around here tonight? Or around 2 a.m., Detective Mark Furman received a call from his superior at home, informing him that he was in charge of investigating a sudden double murder case. Furman is a senior detective in the Homicide Division of the West Los Angeles Police Department, with over 10 years of experience, yet he has never been promoted or broken through in his position. Furman rushed to Bundy Drive and immediately met with Patrolman Lisk, who was waiting at the door. "I'm Detective Mark Furman. Were you the first one here?" After receiving the alarm, we arrived as soon as possible and quickly found the 2 victims. I need to record this with a voice recorder. You don't mind, do you? It's now 2:12 a.m. I'm Detective Mark Furman at 875 Bundy Drive. There have been 2 murders here tonight. At the bottom of the apartment steps, I saw the first victim, a white female in her 30s, with a restaurant menu next to the body. The second victim is on the right side of the courtyard, a white male with his shirt pulled up over his head, around 20 years old. There are several items on the ground next to him. A leather glove with what appears to be bloodstains, a dark color pager, a white envelope, a piece of torn paper, and a pager, possibly a knife wound. Both victims are relatives of O.J. Simpson. The female victim has been preliminarily identified as O.J.'s ex-wife, Nicole Brown. Has the identity of the male victim been confirmed? I don't know yet. Let's go inside first. The 2 attempted to enter the apartment through the front door steps, but since the entire area was soaked in Nicole's blood, they couldn't completely avoid the large amount of blood evidence under the steps. And even more absurdly, Furman temporarily called over a few officers and had them clean the large amount of blood around the entrance with white towels and detergent. This was to make it easier for the forensic experts and superiors who would arrive later to approach the bodies. From a forensic science perspective, this was the first mistake made by the police. Cleaning the crime scene, especially the blood around the victims, not only leads to cross-contamination of blood evidence, but also washes away subtle evidence left by the perpetrator. Later, on the handrail near the steps, Furman found a box of completely melted Ben and Jerry's ice cream. But he didn't take photos or record the volume of the melted ice cream, even though this evidence might have provided clues about the specific circumstances when the murder occurred. Furman didn't stop there and directly entered the main house. Was the front door open at the time? Lisk? Yes, and there was stereo music playing in the living room. What differences did you notice between when you arrived and now? There were a few candles lit in the living room at the time, which are now extinguished. There were no signs of struggle or burglary inside the apartment. The living room had candles lit at the time of the incident, suggesting the victim might have been about to rest, but received a visitor she knew as she went out to greet the detective in her nightgown. Do we need to go upstairs? The murder didn't happen inside the apartment, unless you have some particular findings upstairs. When we went upstairs to look for survivors, we saw candles lit in the master bedroom on the second floor. The bathtub in the master bedroom's bathroom was filled with water. The side door of the apartment leads to a sidewalk, which is about 120 feet or longer. There were numerous shoe prints and bloodstains on the sidewalk. However, no bloodied shoe prints were found on the path from the apartment entrance to Bundy Drive. Instead, there were some blood-colored claw marks, likely left by the Akita dog that first discovered the victim's body. Detective, Can these bloodied shoe prints identify the murderer? There's too much blood at the scene. These shoe prints can't be key evidence. Let's check the back door. There are two bloodstains near the back door, one close to the top and the other near the door latch. Are all the vehicles at home? There were two vehicles in the garage, a white Ferrari and a black Cherokee Jeep. When we arrived, both engines were cold. After circling around Nicole's place, Detective Furman returned to the apartment's living room and began to make an initial record of what he had seen and heard. This is the correct police procedure. The initial observations and sensations of the detectives at the crime scene, such as the room layout, temperature, smell, and other unstable evidence, should all be accurately recorded. The initial documentation of the crime scene is crucial for subsequent investigations, as minor details recorded can provide investigative leads and help refresh memories in the future. However, Detective Furman made another mistake at this moment. He should never have sat on the apartment's couch to take notes. For a significant homicide scene, no physical evidence should be casually touched before the case is closed, as this could inadvertently damage useful evidence or cause material transfer. After Dr. Lee Chong-yu and Sam fully retraced the events of that night on Bundy Drive, the car also arrived at the entrance of the first crime scene.